Welcome to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge, the podcast where Christine says fear, questions everything, and takes bold action. Christine Spratley is a former professional boxer, nanny, and 29-plus year corporate warrior turned founder of HBIC Advisors, where she is a public speaker and coach. She's been saying fear her whole life, many times without even realizing it. So tune in, spread the word, and get ready, because this isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Fuck Fear with Christine Spratley, living like an HBIC, head bitch in charge. It's been a hot minute, hasn't it, Joe?
Yes. It's been a couple weeks.
It's been a couple weeks since we've been in the studio together. But you've been on your trips and they were all good?
Yeah, we had a good time.
Good. Well, we are doing immunity, right? Immunity shots today. Doesn't look like that. I don't have a lot of pepper in mine. Do you have a lot of pepper in yours?
Might be deceiving. I don't know. I can't tell.
All right, ready? Go. 1, 2, 3. Oh my God.
I'd say less pepper than normal, but still a lot of pepper.
That was less pepper than normal, but I think I got that ginger in the back of my throat.
Like a chunk caught?
Yeah. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. As I said, to Fuck Fear, living like a head bitch in charge. I was thinking about a topic that I don't know when I started. I don't want to say practicing this, but really when I started, it was a long time ago. But I've started using it more and more in my daily life, like tracking it. So one of the things that I do is as I sort of kind of keep track on things that I want to practice or implement in my life. Part of it comes from just being aware of what I'm doing. And this is what I'm practicing right now is the words that I'm choosing. Choose your words wisely. And there's a reason for that. And I had always been told, not always, you sometimes hear me say things like words like should and shouldn't and can't, and then I'll rephrase them. And then you'll hear me say, well, I'm learning to do it. Or, I wish this was different, and then I'll say, well, I'm creating it differently now. And it's a reframing of the words. As I've done that, I've started to realize that I am very careless with words, or not I am, but how careless I can be with words without even knowing about it. How I paint myself into a box with what I say. And so I started kind of going through this for this episode of understanding, well, what happens in our, neurobiological system when we use words like this, and what is the genesis? Because I was told this a long time ago about, try to use words that give you autonomy, that are not kind of absolutionist words, that are positive action words, things, that are not negative or self-cohesive words, like must and can't, but, and like absolute words of never or always. If you've ever been in relationship, therapy, you've always heard that, when you get in those conversations and you say, well, you have always do this, or I always do that. And instead use words like, I choose, or I get to, or I can, and I will. And for me, when I was going through this, I wanted to look at it from a neurobiological standpoint and the physiological evidence about what happens to our bodies and why there's so much power in using words, the different words we choose. So for this episode, I would like for you the listener, to just sit back and kind of think about your day and how you use these words. Some words you're like, I don't ever use that. And then other words you'll be like, oh, I use that all the time. Oh. But when I started doing this, I started going through and I started just keeping track of kind of the words that I said. And there's a friend of mine who uses, of course, of course, of course. And that may sound like a neutral word, but it's how and where they use it. And it's when I'm giving that person a compliment, they'll say, of course I did that. And it's almost like a deflection away. So those might be the words you use. I on the other hand, I use words, I can't, I have to, we need to, things like that, outside of like work context and things like that. These are personal interaction words for me. And so what the big kicker for me was I literally had a counselor tell me, Christine, when you say, I have to do this, and you don't give yourself any way out, there's also or I had to do it. She would say there's also some lack of ability for you to claim the reward of when you do it, when you choose to do what's hard. So for me now, and we talked about it for a long time, but for me now, I like to use the words, I get to choose to do this today. I get to walk through the pain or the argument or it could be as simple as I get to jump into, like doing this podcast today. It was hard to come back in after a while off, and I'm like, oh, I get to go do this today. I mean, I get to do that. I get to choose. I'm choosing to do this. I'm choosing this step. I'm choosing to engage. And then I get to credit for doing it, and I get the credit for, this was a choice of mine. No one forced me to do that. Now, a lot of times I'll sit there and I'll go, well, I have to do this. In my head, I'm like, I have to do this. There's no other option. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, there's no other option. I'm like, there's always other options. But there might not be other options that they want to do or that I want to do or that are good options. What I'm doing the quotations things, but that are good options or that are beneficial options or that are logical options. But there are other options. And that's the thing is when I sit there and I say, I have to do this or there are no other options or I speak in those absolutes. Well, there are, and I'm choosing the best option that I can, that I see for me. And there's accountability in that. So again, I wanted to have this conversation, but then I wanted to go into the neurobiological and the physiological evidence of what happens when we talk like this. So when I use negative or self-cohesive words like must or can't, it heightens the limbic threat circuitry in your system. So your amygdala goes up, your regulation goes down a bit. So it's almost like you're kind of like heightening your own tension. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's wild about that is that you're setting yourself up. It's almost, and I don't want to use this phrase, but I'm going to use it. It's almost like I'm kind of gaslighting myself. In that sense of, let's get excited before I need to be excited. And one of the things that I think is really interesting about that is I never thought of it that way, but we talked about this previously about walking into a situation predestined. If I am already exciting myself about this, I can't do this, I must have this. There's already a heightened sense to this. And that's why it blows my mind that I use these words so frequently. And I don't use them as much as I do. But how often do you use the words, I can't, I must, I can't fail, we can't fail at this. I've got to get this right. I've got to get this right. You know, it's like the smoke alarm goes off before there's even a fire. And there's a study in 2007 that was done that when people repeated negative or must, should, kind of, you know, must and should statements, their amygdala lights up like a Christmas tree, you know? And so it's like you're handing the CEO of your brain this muzzle, and they can't do anything because everything else is lighting up and going on and going off. And that's what's really wild to me, is that why am I doing that before I even enter it to do it? I have this stress that already precedes the action, you know? And so I just thought that was interesting. And then I thought, okay, well, what happens when you use words like, I get to, or I choose to do this? And what happens in your body? Well, your brain activates, you know, the prefrontal cortex, and it's kind of the reward motivation center. And so it's dopamine. And that's like your brain's favorite party drug. And so again, it's like if I'm going into a situation that's high stakes or whatever, but I'm choosing to do that, or an emotional situation, but I'm choosing to get to go in there and do that, and I frame it that way, I'd like a little bit of that party drug to bring to the party. You know? Okay, all right. And I just, you know, I don't think about this often. I do now, but I didn't in my work and all that. I did from the standpoint of use words that give you freedom and things like that. But I never thought about it from the neurological or the neurobiological, you know, or the physiological part of your body. That's really how this works. And part of me at my age right now has been kind of waking up to really how your body functions. And I need all the help I can get. So why not use the things that give me help, like using words that trigger the dopamine in our bodies to be like, okay, all right, let's do this. Instead of let's pull the fire alarm before we even have a fire, just in case there's a fire. Holy shit, you know? And you can, and I don't know, I can actually feel the shift when I change it. I can feel the shift, and I can literally, you know, just kind of go into this mode of, all right, I'm choosing to do this. This is a choice of mine. Here we go. All right, ready to go on. And then there's this thing called, and I think this is kind of really, really cool. And I didn't know about it before at all, but it is and I'm going to get this, I hope I get this right. So the Neuroplasticity, and what that is that it's the wiring of your brain, and it's the neuroplasticity of it, and your brain's ability to change. And the neurons, in a way to think about this, neurons that fire together wire together. So think about it as, and you know me, I love sports, right? Okay. So you've got like Magic Johnson and Kareem, right? Back in the day. Okay. Thousands upon thousands of no-look passes, right? Boom, boom, boom. Dun, dun, dun. Here, Kareem, go up, boom, done. 2 points on the board, typically with a foul, you know? That is so wired. Lynn Swann and Terry Bradshaw. Swann would often leave his feet, you know, from the ground, go up before it was in air, you know? Like not before it was in air, but before, you know, before he would even look. And it's just, you know it. It's like hitting, you know, I hate I wasn't ever a Patriots fan, but, Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, I mean, think about it. It's like a great second and first baseman double play. It's that ability to just the needed reps. And so it's almost like this is what happens when we say these things. So I said before, I keep kind of a track when I'm trying to implement something in my life. I keep a little yellow Post-it note, and I just mark, in the fives, boom, 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 5, 1, 2, 3, 5. And I start. So the first thing I did with this was, all right, I kind of took note of what I say, for like a week. And then the next 2 weeks, and I pulled out the words that were, self-limiting or, negative or absolutist words. And I just kept track of those. And then I pulled them out and then I said, okay. And then I kept track of how many times I said those things. I didn't try to change it. I just kept track of it. And then I started to go, okay, what are some of my options for the other words that I can use? And so that's when I started to realize how many times I am feeding this to myself. How many times I am firing those types of neurons together, and then they're so wired together. And it really amazed me that it wasn't as if I was saying them a few times. I was saying them a lot within an hour. Now, were all typically at work, but these were all in different contexts. But I would use that same phrase or that same can't, must, need, have, who. Well, if I'm getting hit like that all the freaking time, no wonder why I feel like I'm on fire. Or if people are using them around me. But I thought that was interesting in that is, for me, the easiest route because it is the most used route. It is the most known route. It is that, they're wired together because I've used them so many times. And so how do I get to the place where I can fix that? And this is what I started to do was I started to come up with words that I can use instead. So for me, it would be, I'm not good at this. So I would use things like, I'm learning to do this. I'm improving on this, so I'm going to try it. I'm building this skill set. I even started doing this in interviews. I actually work, because I do coaching on kind of professional identity coaching and what they do. And then part of my coaching, I will even take clients as they go through interviews when we find a job that they like or a position. And one of the questions is, what are you not good at? That they always make the interviewer answer. And so what they'll say is, we've worded it to be, I'm building this skill of blah, 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 which is a different take on, ooh, this was the hardest thing I ever learned, or this is what I'm not good at, or just throwing out what I'm not good at. But it's, I'm building this skill, or I'm learning to do this, or I'm choosing to develop, which is even, for me, a really, if I'm sitting on the other end of that, wow, they're choosing to develop this aspect of their technical aspect or, emotional intelligence aspect. But so those are some words I use. I have to finish this. I'm choosing to finish this. I'm committed to completing this. I get to complete it. Again, it's this optional thing where I am getting into that mode of saying it needs to be done and I'm choosing to do it. Because again, even if it's a deadline at work, we don't have to finish it. It's still an option not to do it. Your partner or your boss may be totally pissed. The client may be totally pissed, but you have this ability not to do that. Using the word I can't eat this, or I can't eat that. And my nutritionist, my registered dietitian, when I lost all the weight, I employed a registered dietitian to help me basically just eat better. and learn how I ate. But I used to say I can't. And she'd be like, no, you can. Yeah, you can. You can do anything you really want that you want to do. And so it gave me a lot of freedom, but it also tapped into this, and this was a study that was done where when you use words like I can't, which are absolutist words, then you are more likely to quit when you fail once. And it was 35% reduction in people that stopped a diet when they stopped using words of I can't eat this, I can't do that, I can't, once they had a relapse or they missed a gym session or they, whatever they were telling themselves that they couldn't do, and they stopped using words like I can't, and they started using words like I don't, or like I don't eat sugar. I don't. It's my choice. I don't. I'm choosing to not eat sugar. I skip sugar by choice. I feel differently. I do these things. And again, it's that absolute mindset, or not mindset, but it could be a mindset, but it's that I'm backed into a corner. Well, now I've screwed up. Now what do? I said, I can't do it. For me, a big one is I'm choosing today not to do that until I can get into the habit of not doing it, or this week I'm going to not do that. Or the phrase, this is overwhelming. I mean, think about that, overwhelming, or this is challenging, but solvable. This is defining me, this is cultivating who I am. Is it overwhelming? Yeah, but it's cultivating. I am learning through this. This is something that is going to build my character. I don't like that one, but it was there. A friend of mine used it, and it was a guy friend. I don't like it because I don't know. I just don't like it. But he was like, put it in there. It'll resonate with the dudes. And I'm like, okay, since you listen to my podcast, I'll put it in there. And then I never get this right. I never say that. I never do this. And if this is piking up in your ears, do you say this in relationships with your other partner? You never, ever. I've never done
together.
What?
I got that Taylor Swift song in my head. Getting back together. Never, ever.
That's funny that's so funny. That tells us a lot about you and I. You're on the Taylor Swift thing, and I'm the dude in the, I'm so not.
Two daughters.
I know.
I know all the Swift songs.
I know. So what do you use instead of I've never? I haven't done it yet. I'm starting to. Usually each try gets me closer. Like if I'm saying I never get this right, I can say, well, I'm getting it right more often. Each try gets me closer to getting it right. Or the big thing, we haven't done it yet. I haven't gotten this right yet. I do a lot of yets on the end of mine. I haven't done this yet. I haven't made this money yet. I haven't sold this project yet. I haven't found the love of my life yet. I haven't done this yet. And then the shoulds. I should work out. I should do this. I should say this. I shouldn't say this. And we've all done the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. But I get to work out. I get to do this today. Or I get to sleep on the couch today. I choose this right now. And again, sometimes when I use even words like right now, that allows me to change that framework anytime I want to. Because that's just a moment in time. So I can choose something else in 5 minutes.
Great leadership doesn't start with a title. It starts with bold action. Christine Spratley works with high-performing teams that include anything from boards, councils, and project teams to cut through the noise, craft clear strategies, and most importantly, implement them. No fluff, no endless planning cycles, just real, fearless execution. With humor, practical insights, and a fearless approach, after working with Christine, leaders will step up, take action, and make shit happen. Book her now at ChristineSpratley.com.
I used to do this when I would be depressed. I would say, okay, I'm going to choose to do this for the next 5 minutes. And then I would say, okay, 5 minutes, I'd lay in bed. And because it was, for me, when I was very depressed, it was so hard, like to go, okay, I got to get up and I got to go to work. And so it'd be like, okay, I'm going to lay here for 5 minutes, or I'm choosing to just get up and literally some days it was roll over and put my feet on the floor. I'm choosing to do this. Not I should get up, not I should, but I'm choosing to do this. And then it would be like, okay, I've done this. Okay, I'm doing this. What about everything? Everything's going wrong. Everybody hates me. This absolutist idea. I ran into this the other night. I had a not very good interaction with someone, and it was like all of my buttons, like they pushed all of them, and I did not react well in the conversation. I did not respond well. I saw tools zooming by me that I could have used left and right. And it was late when I got off the phone call with that person. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have anybody to call. I have nobody, and then it was just like, and then all of this doubt, this fear, uncertainty, and doubt fed what I call, it was just this massive thundercloud in my heart. I mean, I was physically shaken. I was so upset. And I did have somebody to call. But again, it was that self-talk of oh my God, everybody, yeah. And what I did was I literally was like, there's somebody. I have a lot of people in my numbers, like from way back. People I don't even think about calling. But I have a lot of people there. And so I was like, there's somebody I can call. There's somebody. I just got to find them. Everything's not going wrong. This part is not going right yet. This part of me, because that was part of it, was I was in this lot of self-doubt of where I was as a person. And it was one of those conversations where I had to go, I had shared with this person a lot of my fears. And this person basically turned around and went in there and were like, pushed them all. We're like, yeah, you're this person and you're that person and you're this person. Because they knew that that was one of my fears, was that I didn't want to be those types of people. And so it was like basically gaslighting the shit out of me. And but again, it was, no, everything's not wrong with me. Yes, I have made a lot of mistakes, but I've also done a lot of things right. And I'm not done yet. So I still got time. I've still got time to get better. I've still got time to be the person that I want to be. I can't figure this out yet. I can adjust. Everything's, and so again, it's that absolute of everything, everyone. Everyone does not like me. Well, I don't fucking know everyone. I don't know everybody. And everybody has not met me. Okay? So again, I can, the people in this group may not like me, but I haven't met the people over here. I may not like who I have been in this setting, but I'm changing. So again, it's this reduces the amount of the overwhelmingness of it, in the sense of, I don't know everybody. It's not an absolute thing. And then this is one of my two words. Well, I'm stuck. I'm stuck with this, I'm stuck with that, I'm stuck here, I'm stuck. And it's a lot of times when I feel like I'm stuck, and I'll say this, I use I'm stuck a lot. And I'll say, I'm stuck on this. Or I'm stuck on this, followed by, I can't figure it out. Or I don't know what to do. And I'm stuck is, I'm choosing my next move. I'm just choosing my next move. I haven't moved yet, but I'm not stuck. I'm processing and, I'm mapping my roots. I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday, and she kept using the phrase, I'm confused. And it was the precursor to this segue into, so I don't know what I'm doing. And so she asked if I had any thoughts on that. And I said, and I just started talking. So you're working things out, you're figuring out, you're gaining data. And she was like, yeah. And I said, well, then quit saying you're confused and just say what you're doing, which is you're gaining data. You're taking the action. You're getting information. You're analyzing the situation. And it restores this agency to you. Is I'm not helpless. I am choosing my next move. I am pondering my next move. Now, I may sit there for a while in my stuckness and ponder, but I am thinking about my next move. And it gives me that autonomy and that kind of, like I've always said about being an HBIC, is this is about me. And the words that I choose to use, and about me being responsible for the actions that I take to generate what I want to generate in my life. And if I use words that light me on fire before I even enter the game, or I use words that become the mindset paved highway, and they're all words that drive me into the corner in the room where I don't have options. And again, like I talked about in the beginning, of if I'm feeding myself that fire instead of that calm before I get there, and I'm putting myself in that box, then when I get there, I'm less likely to have the autonomy. Then I'm less likely to be able to access that. It becomes that much harder for me. And so I really like the fact when I pay attention. You've heard me say this before about intentional participation. And I think understanding the words that I use, not just them in the sentence, but what happens to my body when I use them, gives me a lot of power. And it gives me a lot of ability to change. The more information I get, the more options I have. And I like that. I don't know if I'll ever be, again, I don't know if I'll ever be 100% all the time, but I don't think that's where you get it. I don't know that that's life. But I get to do this as much as I want. And if I get to change my mind, pivot and move, and go and say, I'm not, then I can say, I am. I am this. I am learning. I am doing this. I choose to finish this. I choose to say no. I choose to eat differently. And I choose to eat half a hamburger instead of all of it, or whatever. I choose to do this. This isn't overwhelming. This is challenging, and life's sometimes challenging, but it's solvable. I never I haven't yet. I haven't done it yet. So what things, what sayings, what words do you use in your life with your kids, with your husband, with your teams? How do you position yourself? What boxes do you draw around yourself? How do you get excited before you get there? And not in a good way. I just think for me, takes a lot of the pressure off of being right and so much more ability to be me. And also, I think, if I'm really honest, it allows me to be kinder to myself, to be stronger, and really look at myself how I am. Because I am not all one thing. I'm not all bad. I'm not all good. I am a person that's going through life, and these are the choices that I get to make. And that's a lot of fun. So today, I want you, and for your assignment, is think about the words you use. Listen to the words. Pay attention to those types of words. And then check out your other options. And you'll notice that I haven't, and I don't want you to do this, but I haven't said, go and understand why you use those words. Because to me, that insight comes later. Usually for me, it's let's change the action. Let's get into the rhythm of changing the action. And then I get some time, and then I go, oh, that's why I was doing that in that situation. That's why I have that perception of me. That's why I would always say I was overwhelmed. That's how these things fit together. If I try to do that while I'm changing the action, I'll get really confused. And it prevents me a lot of times from changing the action. So again, look at it, find the words, get other options for other phrases, other words, and change the action. And then learn the insight afterwards. And see how that works for you. So until next time, ladies, gentlemen, everybody in between, Tubbs.
Thanks for tuning in to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, tell her what topics you want to hear, and share this episode with someone who could use a pantry full of boldness in their life. Remember, life isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell. So show up, take action, and keep saying fear.